Hello everyone, welcome back to OncoDaily. Today we are in Moscow and on Oncoinfluencers our guest is a dear friend of mine, Mikhail Grubman, the CEO of Atlan Clinical, which is one of the largest CROs in Eastern Europe. Thank you very much, Mikhail. Thanks for having a time for us. Please, can you just tell us what Atlan Clinical is doing?
First of all, Gevorg, thank you very much for the great opportunity to be part of the OncoDaily. So, Atlan Clinical is a full-service CRO which originates from Russia, from Moscow. 17 years ago, it was started, and it started as a small, local and niche company providing the very standard services like clinical monitoring, clinical project management, and regulatory affairs. But then we decided that we would like to become a global player, one-stop shop for the customers, and we diversified the service portfolio to everything, starting from the clinical strategy development and up to the clinical study report, including all important phases like data management, biostatistics, medical writing, and others. Throughout the 17 years of our successful history, we have managed to cover all major therapeutic areas and all phases of clinical research, starting from phase 1 and up to phase 4. We currently are an international company with our offices in Moscow, in Istanbul, Turkey, in Yerevan, Armenia, in Portugal, Madeira, and we are continuing to grow our international presence.
Thank you very much. How it was to start a company where there was no basically that kind of culture? What kind of difficulties you were facing?
Well, first of all, we definitely started the company at the time when there were very few CRO companies. The majority of them were international, and we were actually one of the first local Russian companies. So the main difficulty was to explain to international clients, and the majority, like 95%, were the companies from the United States. The less amount was from Europe. So we really tried to convince them that the level of quality that Russian investigators are providing really corresponds to the international standards like GCP and to the requirements of the FDA and the EMA. So that was, I would say, the main challenge, to start those discussions and actually to convince them that we are in the position to provide better and faster services than the global international big CROs like Quintiles, Parexel, EPD, and others.
How is it like with the staff? I mean, when in the country you are starting something, I'm sure you are having a shortage of the staff. How you are developing that?
The situation in Russia at that period of time was quite unique because there were very many doctors who could not afford a living if they would continue to work as medical doctors. So there were a lot of people who had to quit medicine and to search for better opportunities. And there were many people who didn't want to sell the drugs, which was the most, let's say, popular destination. Then they were very eager to start working in clinical research because they felt that clinical research is kind of close to their background, let's say. That's point number one. Point number two, as I'm not a medical doctor, as you know, I'm a biochemist by background. We also started to hire people with scientific backgrounds, so biochemists, chemists, biologists. And we also found out that there were a lot of people who were ready to quit scientific work because of the same reasons, unfortunately, and join the team. And that's why like 95% of our staff traditionally has a scientific background. More than 15% have a PhD. And this is a unique situation across the globe because in the majority of countries like, the United States, like Europe, medical doctors would continue to treat people and they would not join CROs. But we were lucky to get people with great education, with very deep understanding of medicine. And that's why the level of services that we could provide was excellent.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I agree. There is always a certain, not always, but sometimes when there is a surplus of medical graduates and they're facing difficulties to find a proper job, this is like great opportunity both for them and for the CRO. On the other hand, please can you describe with which international players in the field do have experience to work? What kind of clinical trials you were doing at the beginning and later on?
Okay, so we actually managed to work with the majority of so-called big pharma players. So we worked a lot with GSK. We had a global provider status from Merck, or MSD, as it's called here. We worked with Takeda. We worked with Astellas. We worked with AstraZeneca. We worked with Alexion. We worked with Octapharma, and many different other pharmaceutical and biotech companies. And that is important because we had to tailor our services to their needs and to their requirements. That's why we had to create from scratch a unique quality management system that allowed us, on the one hand, to stay flexible and efficient, but on the other hand, to really be in line with the requirements of the big pharma companies. So to give you a flavor, when we started to work with Merck, it took us 1 year of constant audits of all our standard operating procedures and processes, with interviews with the majority of our staff, to actually start working with them. But once we did, we really succeeded because we are much faster, much more flexible, and frankly speaking, much more affordable and result-oriented than the majority of the global players. Because the thing is that, the global CROs, of course, they have a global reach, and that is their competitive advantage. However, they're already big machines with a lot of bureaucracy inside, and you can imagine that when one big bureaucracy faces the other big bureaucracy, it sometimes becomes a mess. And what is more important, when they have thousands of clients, one client does not matter that much. When we have 10 clients, 50 clients, 20 clients, or 100 clients, everyone is precious as gold. And that's why what I was always telling to my team, and I keep telling it as well, I keep telling it now, is that we cannot fail. So our reputation is much more important than anything else. And that's why we guarantee the timelines, we guarantee the strict adherence to the budget that we agreed in the beginning. So what I always tell is that we want to be considered as a real partner and not as an inevitable evil like CROs are often viewed by pharmaceutical companies. Because as you know, the pharmaceutical industry and the industry of creating new drugs is a high-risk, high-reward industry. But the main risks are held by the producer, so by the innovator, and not by the CRO. So what I'm telling to my clients, that what we propose, what I call a risk-sharing approach. So what we do at the very beginning, we tell the company, so here is our proposal, and we guarantee that if you do not change your requirements, if you do not change your requests, we will guarantee that we will fulfill the budget. If my team failed to calculate something or have forgotten to calculate something, it's my problem. It's on me. That's one. And second, I tell to my clients, I know that timelines are crucially important. They are crucially important for Wall Street if you're a publicly traded company. They are crucially important to different other investors. And finally, they are crucially important to humanity. Because the faster we do the trials, the faster people will get new treatment options and probably life-saving treatments if we talk about oncology specifically. So what I say is that we guarantee the timelines, and we agree that if we do it slower than we promised, we lose money. If we do it much faster, we gain additional money. And I see that my clients see it as a very fair approach, which we rarely see in global CROs. So I believe that this is, extremely important to work like this in the new, highly competitive environment of clinical research.
This is really one of the critical important things, as you mentioned, the speed. And because, you mentioned very correctly that it's not just about completing the clinical trial, but it's more about the patients, because, the sooner you complete it, the sooner you get the results. And of course, the the quality of the data and the quality of the making this clinical trial, it's critically important. I know that like a few years ago you were acquired by one of the Western well-known biotech companies, right? Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, for sure. In 2020, Atlan Clinical was acquired by a US publicly traded biotech company called Agenus, which is one of the leading innovators in the immuno-oncology area, not only in the United States, but I could say in the world. That was our strategic decision because we wanted to find the suitable partner for continuing our global development on the one hand, but also we really wanted to contribute to bringing the medicines to the client, to the patients much faster than it was before. And we share the same spirit with the Agenus because what they do is they try to be as efficient as possible, to be as fast as possible, to find better solutions that would lead to faster market approvals of their innovative medicines. So starting from 2020, we are doing it together with Agenus. We are very proud of this. And what is extremely important, that not only do we support Agenus clinical trials, but we continue to work with other international players. So that is extremely important.
So basically, you are like combining your experience in this part of the world with the Western U.S. experience and the requirements what are there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can frankly tell you that we would be the only company in Russia that would efficiently work with the FDA, because my biostatistical team, my data management team, my medical writers are working together with the Agenus teams in order to provide the data and the documentation that is then submitted to the FDA, which proves that the level of professionals that we have here is really global, and this is, I would say, extremely important.
Another important question, I mean, for understandable reasons, some of the companies are worried to come to do clinical trials here. I'm sure there is some change here, right, in the clinical trials market. But, I mean, in your opinion, what would move the companies to come to Russia and to do clinical trials again?
I would start with a little bit of history, if you don't mind. So before 2022, and before all those unfortunate events on the global arena that we currently see, Russia, basing on the FDA data, was a number 2 contributing country to the global enrollment. So we were number 2 after the United States across all areas of clinical research, but specifically in oncology. The thing is that all countries in Eastern Europe, and Russia is not an exception, there is a high unmet medical need in those countries because the healthcare system is not as developed as, for instance, in the United States or in Central Europe. So many patients see clinical trials as the only opportunity to, first of all, get the novel treatment options, A, B, to get the guaranteed standard of care, and C, to get the guaranteed highest level of medical care that is available. And that's why patients do want to participate in clinical research. And because our population is huge, you have a lot of patients like this. That's one. Second, there are a lot of naive patients. And as you know, it's very hard to find naive patients for oncology in the United States, for instance, or in Central Europe. And also, it costs a lot of money. Here, the labor costs are incomparable with the labor costs in the United States, and doctors are not getting paid even close as much as they are being paid in the, let's say, developed world. And that's why this is also an opportunity for investigators. So we have an unmet medical need, so patients want to participate in clinical trials, and we have investigators who are extremely interested in doing clinical trials because this links their experience to the global experience. They love having discussions with their global peers. They like to be published in international journals. So they also want to participate, and they take it very seriously. So they are much more involved in clinical research than the PIs in global countries. That's what I see, and that's what I hear from different other CROs who I talk to and different other pharmaceutical companies. So Russia was a very important player in the field of clinical research since 2022, despite the fact that United States clearly stipulated that clinical research is not under sanctions in any way because it has a humanitarian aspect. Unfortunately, many global companies decided to stop new clinical trials and they left. So currently, 99% of the clinical trial market in Russia is based on trials that are performed by Russian pharmaceutical companies, sometimes by Indian pharmaceutical companies, Iranian pharmaceutical companies, and very rarely Chinese pharmaceutical companies. But the market has really shrinked. And what is extremely important is that the situation currently, from my point of view, creates enormous opportunities for the companies that are brave enough to continue working because patients are still there. There is a huge social demand for clinical research. Companies could come and get data much faster than in the US, much faster than in Europe, of highest quality, and actually that can really support their clinical development and allow them to bring the drugs to the market much faster. What we know is that FDA and EMA continue to analyze data from Russia because all global players continue the trials that were initiated before 2022. So there are still patients, there is still data, and the data is being submitted to the FDA, to EMA, and they analyze the data. So as far as we know, they are ready to accept this data. Many companies ask me, how would FDA inspect the sites? Of course, they cannot come physically, again, due to geopolitical reasons, but during COVID times, they have created a specific process which allows a remote inspections. So I am sure that it is possible to, if they would like to do the remote inspection, they would be able to do it as they did it during COVID times. So what I want to emphasize is that Russia currently creates great opportunities for all international companies who want to come and get patients as fast as possible, specifically in oncology, where it is crucially important to start bringing the drugs much faster to the market. So with this said, I would like to welcome all companies who are interested in doing research, and as Gevorg has said, we are being backed up by Agenus. So, and we don't have any issues that we have a US-based owner. So there are absolutely no issues on governmental levels, etc., etc. So it is absolutely safe, and it really is a possibility.
Thank you so much, Mikhail. Please, can you tell me a little bit also about yourself? What's your background? You said that you have a biochemistry. You have a biochemistry background.
Yes. So I was born in Moscow. I graduated from the Moscow State University as a biochemist. Then I got an MBA from the Moscow State University as well. Then I joined the GlaxoSmithKline, the clinical research development. Then I was a part of their leadership potential program. And I moved to sales, to marketing, and to market access. And then in 2012, I left GSK, joined Atlant, which at that time was a very small, as I said, local company with 15 employees, etc. And we, in the last 12 years already, we have build an international company. We currently have more than 100 employees. We continue to grow, and clinical research is my passion. I really love the social impact that this industry brings to the world, and that's why we would continue to provide high-level services to all our clients, because we believe in the mission to accelerate time to market for all companies that are innovating and trying to make people's lives better.
Thank you so much, Mikhail. Thank you very much for the time. Is there anything else you would like to mention before we close out?
I would just like to thank you, Gevorg, for your time and for opportunity to be on OncoDaily. I wish OncoDaily to continue its huge success. And again, we would be very happy to share with you and your followers the developments that we are doing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Georg.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to OncoDaily on YouTube. Hit the bell icon to stay updated.